At midnight, the waitress' daughter revealed a shocking truth about the Japanese millionaire. The clock struck 12, and the diner nestled at the end of Oak Street buzzed with an uneasy energy. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting eerie shadows over the empty booths, where crumbs from midnight pastries lay scattered like secrets waiting to be discovered. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, all eyes were glued to Emily, the waitress's daughter. With a trembling voice, she held up a crumpled piece of paper, her heart pounding like a trapped bird banging against a cage. The room held its breath, captivated by her next words, each one a taut string waiting to snap. Emily's wild brown curls danced as she leaned closer, her emerald eyes glinting in the harsh light. "You won't believe what I found out about Mr. Takashi," she cried, her voice cracking with both excitement and fear. Mr. Takashi, the Japanese millionaire, frequented this diner like clockwork, leaving behind generous tips and an aura of mystery that clung to him like smoke. Few knew that he was entangled in whispers of shady deals and elusive whispers of an empire built on too many shadows. Emily had overheard an illicit conversation's secrets half-spoken, words cloaked in shadow and danger. She had followed the snatch of voices that night, scrunching deeper into her oversized jacket, every step heavy with anticipation. The tension in the diner escalated, tightening around everyone like a noose. Customers murmured and exchanged glances, their expressions flitting between disbelief and raw curiosity. Old Mr. Jenkins, with his usual cup of black coffee, narrowed his eyes and said, "What kind of truth, girl? This better not be a prank." A hushed excitement threaded through the diner, sparking speculations. What if Mr. Takashi wasn't he who he claimed to be? What if he was mixed up in something that could unravel lives? Just then, Emily took a deep breath. The lump in her throat felt like a mountain. With every gaze locked on her, she spoke the words that burned on the tip of her tongue. "He's got enemies. People who want him gone, and I think they're coming for him. They're really coming." The announcement crackled with an electric urgency that sent shivers down spines, drawing gasps from the patrons. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Emily's words floated through the air, tangled in a mixture of terrors and thrills. The diner felt alive, every heartbeat echoing against the walls. What she revealed hinted at dangerous games, webs of deceit woven with rich thread, and the brutal truths lurking just beneath the surface. Could it be true? Was Mr. Takashi a man performing a deadly dance in a room full of traps? Everyone leaned in closer, anxious and electric, snapping in their seats like coiled springs ready to release. As the murmur of disbelief rippled through the diner, another chilling thought crossed Emily's mind. What if her discovery thrust her own life into danger? The flickering lights dimmed, as shadows stretched long across the floor, wrapping around her hesitant feet. Instinct told her she had pulled a thread that was too volatile to handle. And just when she pondered whether to turn back or plunge forward, the door swung open. A stranger, cloaked in darkness, stepped in. Silence ensued. Was he an ally or an enemy? The tension thickened, hovering like unsteady smoke. What would happen next? The mystery deepened, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats. The stranger paused just inside the door, the bell above jingling with a haunting chime that echoed through the stillness. Clad in a long black coat, his face obscured by the brim of a dark hat, he scanned the diner with a steely gaze that seemed to pierce right through the tension. Every heart in the room raced like a wild stallion, caught in the thrall of uncertainty. The flickering lights overhead highlighted the unease etched on the faces around Emily, their eyes wide as they regarded the newcomer with a mix of fear and intrigue. Emily felt her breath catch in her throat. She wanted to flee, but her feet felt glued to the ground. She could almost hear her mother's voice. Don't engage with strangers, but the magnetic pull of the moment left her frozen, caught in a web spun from both bravery and dread. "Who are you?" someone blurted, breaking the silence, as Mr. Jenkins clutched his coffee cup like a life preserver. His voice was hoarse, trembling in the air. The stranger stepped forward, illuminating his face in the sporadic glow of a nearby neon sign. It was then that Emily recognized him: Felix, an informal associate of Mr. Takashi, known for his slick words and slippery deals. "Good evening, everyone," he said, in a smooth baritone laced with menace. "I hear whispers of a certain Mr. Takashi and curious little birds chirping secrets they should have kept tucked away." A ripple of fear cascaded through the patrons. Emily's stomach twisted. What had she done by speaking out? Felix leaned casually against the counter, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "You've all heard what our dear Emily has to say, I take it." His eyes glinted like shards of glass in the light. "I suggest you leave matters of life and death for those truly capable of handling them." Mr. Jenkins scoffed, "We just want the truth." "What is going on with Takashi?" Felix's expression soured. "Truth. Be careful what you wish to uncover. In this game of shadows and deceit, truths have a way of devouring their keepers." There was a chilling finality to his words, and they hung in the air like smoke. Emily's heart raced. She had unknowingly dragged this diner into a dark and messy affair beyond her understanding. She needed to protect her mother, her life, but questions swirled in her mind, each one urging her to dig deeper. If Mr. Takashi was indeed in peril, how could she stand aside? Suddenly, the flickering lights began to fade into darkness, the cool whispers of the wind outside becoming more pronounced. It was as if the room itself had held its breath, straining against the encroaching silence. Emily felt the weight of the unknown surrounding her, raw and suffocating. "Takashi's enemies won't just sit by," Felix continued, his tone low and dangerous. "Sooner or later, they'll show up. And if they do, you'll want to be far away from here." Panic and desperation rippled through Emily. What would she do? Could she really sit back and watch? The world suddenly felt larger and more perilous, filled with shadows that threatened to swallow her whole, and just as she felt the yearning to scream, the door swung open again, this time with a gust that chilled everyone to the bone. Footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate, entering the diner as all eyes turned to the new figure, a silhouette with a familiar presence. Emily's heart raced yet again. Was it Mr. Takashi? What had he brought with him? Would the truth finally shatter this fragile moment of suspense? The tension surged as the figure stepped into the light, revealing someone she never expected to see. Emily felt the room spin around her as the figure emerged, bathed in the sickly glow of overhead lights. It was her father David, a man thought lost to shadows, returning as if from the grave. His clothes were ragged, his face haggard, but it was the desperate spark in his eyes that sent icy fingers of dread through her spine. "Emily," he rasped, stepping closer, his voice cracking with emotion. The nerves crushed her insides, a mix of disbelief and longing colliding in her heart. "I came to find you. You need to listen." Felix's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, but then returned, layered with mocking delight. How quaint. A family reunion under such festive circumstances. He gestured lazily. "Care to enlighten us on what our little Emily has stumbled into?" "Stay away from her," David shouted, stepping between Felix and Emily, protective and fierce. "This isn't just about you, Felix. If you're here because of Takashi." The diner fell silent, a heavy, choking quiet filled only by the distant creak of the diner's aged structure. Attention had shifted, the previous tension twisting into something sharper, a prickle of hostility crackling in the air. "What do you know about Takashi?" Felix sneered, his eyes narrowing. "Does he know you're back?" David's eyes darted around the room, assessing the fear written on the faces of Emily's friends and the vacant horror hanging from the ceiling. A decision flickered in his expression, a glimpse of childhood instinct returning. "I can't explain now. All I can say is, he's in danger, and if you don't get out of here, you'll put yourself into the line of fire." Emily felt her heart race at her father's words. The threat felt real, electric, wrapping around her throat like a noose. She needed to know more, to understand this intricate mess that entangled her family, her life, and her choices. "Dad, what are you talking about? What has Takashi done?" Felix interrupted with a harsh laugh, his voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, poor little Emily, so naive. Takashi is not just a businessman, he plays a dangerous game. If he has your dad in tow, things just became infinitely more perilous. Do you really think that I'd put my family in danger?" David's voice was steady despite the quiver of desperation beneath the surface. "Takashi's enemies are ruthless. They won't stop until they get what they want." As Felix circled them like a predator hungry for the final blow, Emily clenched her fists. She had questions, so many questions, but the gnawing fear of what was at stake held her back. Then the diner door swung open again, slamming against the wall with a resounding crack. A group of men flooded in, all clad in dark coats, eyes surveying the room with cold precision. "There you are," one of them said, voice low but seething with authority. "We've been looking for you, David." Suddenly, the walls felt like they were closing in. The reality hit her like a slap to the face. Her family was tangled in a web that was darker and more tangled than she could ever comprehend. "Emily!" David shouted, pushing her backward. "Run!" And in that moment, as chaos erupted and screams rang through the air, Emily stood paralyzed by an unthinkable choice: flee or fight for the truth that could destroy them all. As she hesitated, a voice echoed in her mind the last words of her mother, and the piercing look of fear in her father's eyes. Would she be able to save them, or would the shadows entwine her as well? A gun cocked, and Emily's heartbeat synced with the heavy thud of impending dread. The question lingered, hanging like smoke in the air: what would she sacrifice to uncover the truth? Emily turned just as the gunman's finger clenched on the trigger, adrenaline surging through her veins. The sounds of panicked screams were drowned out by the deafening pulse in her ears, every heartbeat carving out a path to survival. She felt her breath quicken, each inhale steeped in the horror unfolding in front of her. Rushing forward, she reached for her father, desperation lacing her voice. "Dad, we can't let them take you." David's eyes were wide, desperation and resolution locking in place. "You have to go, Emily. Get to safety." He pushed her harder, his own body blocking her from view like a shield made of flesh and bone. Felix, now a sinister observer to the chaos, chuckled, eyes gleaming with a sadistic glee as he watched the turmoil unfold. "Such theatrics," he said, his voice smooth as silk but laced with threat. "But alas, you don't know who you're dealing with, do you?" The men in dark coats surrounded them, motions calculated and swift. One of them gripped David by the collar, yanking him forward. "You'll come with us, or we'll make sure this little show ends right here." Fear gripped Emily like a vice, and for a moment, all she could do was watch, frozen by the very essence of helplessness as her father struggled against the grip of the armed man. What was happening? How had they found him? "Please!" she shouted, thrusting herself into the fray. "Let him go. You don't have to do this." But they ignored her, focused only on David, whose resolve hardened. "You don't understand," he bellowed. "This is about more than just me. If you think you can just take me away from here, you've got another thing coming." The air crackled with tension, a chasm of uncertainty poised on the edge of violence. Then Felix took a step closer, a serpent woven into this tapestry of chaos. "Think, David. What does Takashi want? You're a pawn in a game far beyond your comprehension." Emily felt the ground beneath her shift. A pawn? Her mind raced, piecing together fragments of her father's past that had slipped through the cracks of family stories. What was it that Takashi sought? Why was her father tied into the darkness lair of crime? The gunman shoved David again. "Enough of this. We don't have time for your theatrics." Suddenly, without warning, the diner's dingy lights flickered violently, plunging the room into near darkness. A loud crash echoed from the back, shattering the moment. The noise sliced through the panic, and the men's attention splintered, distracted, as something or someone stumbled through the door. "Stay back!" A fierce voice shouted back from the shadows, but Emily could only see blurred shapes. Emboldened by the sudden shift, Emily seized the moment, desperation fueling her every move. She tore away from her father and lunged for the nearest person, feeling the soft fabric of a coat. "Help us!" she cried, and a flood of fear washed over her. Who could it be? As lights flickered back on, a figure emerged from the shadows, drenched in sweat and determination. It was someone she never expected. "I have a plan," the newcomer said, urgency cracking through their voice. "But we have to move now." Emily's heart raced, caught between her father and the unknown savior. "But what about?" she began, not even sure how to finish, but before she could utter another word, gunfire erupted. Chaos swallowed the diner whole, and she felt her stomach drop. Shoving through the mess of bodies and flying debris, Emily locked eyes with her father for one eternal moment. There was fear, yes, but also something else: hope. It ignited a fire in her chest, a glimmer of strength battling against everything that clawed at her. She needed answers. Out there, in the chaos, lay the truth behind Takashi, her family's past, and her father's choices. Just as she moved, a heavy weight pushed against her back, urging her forward into the storm of uncertainty. Where was Takashi in all this? And could they escape the danger that whispered promises of violence? In the midst of the bravado, all that loomed in her mind was one unsettling thought: what awaited on the other side of this darkness? The gunfire echoed like thunder, the shriek of bullets piercing through the frantic cries that enveloped the diner. Emily felt her heart race, the adrenaline coursing through her body, urging her to move but leaving her paralyzed with fear. She turned to the figure beside her, the unexpected savior. It was Marcus, her oldest friend, often viewed as just a boy with dreams of adventure. But now, there was something different in his eyes, something steely and fierce. "Emily, we have to go. This is our only chance," he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. She nodded, pushing aside her shock, instinct taking over. "What about my dad?" she managed to yell back, fighting panic and desperation. Her father's figure was tense, struggling against the men who held him like a hostage. Marcus hesitated for just a second, enough to create a tight knot in her stomach. "I'll get him. Just trust me." Before she could argue, a loud explosion rocked the diner, flinging her against a table. Glass shattered, sending tiny shards cascading like deadly rain. Emily gasped and covered her face, the scent of smoke filling her lungs. Confusion reigned, accompanied by the screams of patrons scattered amid overturned chairs and tables. "Move!" Marcus shouted, grabbing her hand, weaving through the debris. Emily followed him, fueled by 1,000 fears but one rising hope: the possibility of escape. They ducked behind the service counter, peering back at the chaos. David was still there, a wolf cornered, snarling against his captors. Felix stood by, watching the scene unfold with a chilling grin, enjoying the terror. "Emily!" her father shouted, eyes wide with pain. "Get out of here. Now!" But as she looked back, her heart sank. The gunman was storming toward David, angry, impatient. In that moment, everything felt surreal, her fears wrapped around her like a shroud, her father's plea anchoring her to that spot. "Wait! We can't leave him!" she shouted, pulling away from Marcus. "Emily, listen to me. We don't have time," Marcus insisted, eyes sharp with urgency. Behind them, more shouts erupted as chaos broke out, more threats brewing, but there was something in David's gaze that compelled her to act. She couldn't abandon him. Not now. Not ever. "Trust me," she yelled back at Marcus, her voice trembling but fierce. She took off, breaking into a run, ducking under the counter. The gunman turned, locking onto her with a fierce gaze, finger wavering near the trigger. Adrenaline coursed even harder through her veins. "Dad!" she yelled, running straight toward them, instinct screaming, Marcus's voice echoed in her mind, "Don't be stupid." But there was no other choice. Just as she reached her father, the noise surged again as the gunman's weapon fired. Time seemed to stop. The bullet whizzed past her, felt but unseen, too close. A scream echoed, shattering the moment. It was chaotic. David stumbled back, and her heart lodged in her throat. "Emily!" he cried, fighting against the armed men, his strength palpable, but the numbers were against him. Then, without warning, Marcus re-entered the fray, tackling one of the assailants in a desperate bid to free David. "Get him! I'll hold them!" Marcus shouted, determination flooding his voice, but Emily didn't want to leave him behind. Again, she was stuck, torn between two worlds, her father risking everything to protect her and her friend throwing himself into danger. As the gunfire rang like a death bell, she felt fists of uncertainty grip her chest. "Move!" David shouted again, a sound of frustration and becomes a blend of urgency. So many emotions flooded through her, battling for dominance. She had to decide fast. Trust Marcus or stay with her father? Marcus! She screamed, the world around her igniting in chaos, adrenaline kicking her senses into overdrive. What's the plan? Just then, another crash came from the back, and the door burst wide open. Emily turned to see a figure silhouetted against the light, moving swiftly toward them. "Get down!" came another voice, deeper, more commanding, as a final showdown loomed ahead. Emily had no idea how severe the danger was about to become. The scene was spiraling out of control. What secrets lay in wait for her? Would she find the answers she sought, or would they only bring more chaos crashing down? In that terrifying instant, she knew one thing: time was running out. The figure stepped through the door, a tall silhouette that seemed to stretch across the diner, casting an ominous presence. The chaos muted, the cacophony of screams and gunfire faded into a dull hum, as all eyes turned to this newcomer. Emily held her breath, 100 questions swirling in her mind. "Get out of the way!" The voice boomed, cutting through the chaos like a knife. It was authoritative, fierce yet oddly calming. The mystery figure stepped closer, revealing a face shadowed beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The gunman halted, momentarily distracted. Emily could feel the tension crackle in the air like static before a storm. The man's hands moved to his waist, the unmistakable outline of a weapon at his side. "Let the girl go," he demanded, his voice resolute. Emily's heart raced. Who was this man? She recognized the urgency in his tone as the sharp crack of the gunman's weapon echoed again. She couldn't lose anyone else. David struggled harder against his captors, desperation etching lines of fear on his face. "No. Don't hurt her," he shouted, the desperation in his voice escalating as the tension built. Marcus remained crouched, preparing to spring into action as soon as the opportunity arose. Emily glanced at him, eyes wide, pleading without words. But there was something about that newcomer that had drawn Marcus's gaze, a recognition that lingered in the air. The standoff heightened, the newcomer's eyes flicked between the gunman and Emily's father, gauging the situation. One wrong move could change everything. "Step away from him, and this all ends now," the stranger commanded, challenging the gunman with unwavering bravery. The gunman smirked, clearly unfazed. "And who are you supposed to be? Some kind of hero?" With a swift movement, the stranger revealed his badge, the glimmer of it catching the dim light. "FBI," he stated flatly. "You're surrounded. Let him go, or I will shoot." "Ha! You think that badge intimidates me?" The gunman laughed, raising his weapon higher. The tension thickened in the air, impending disaster hovering like a storm cloud. "Emily, stay back!" her father yelled, his voice a desperate command. But Emily didn't want to stay put. In that moment of chaos, she saw a fleeting chance. The stranger was a lifeline. If they could just distract the gunman long enough, maybe they could escape. She glanced at Marcus, who nodded slightly, eyes full of determination. Now, he mouthed, and time seemed to freeze. Emily wasted no time. She bolted forward, a surge of instinct driving her to her father. The stranger diverted the gunman's attention, shouting commands, his voice ringing out against the din of mayhem. Just as the gunman turned, Emily reached David, locking onto his arm. "Dad, let us go!" she shouted. David's eyes lit up with fierce pride mixed with disbelief. "Emily, no!" But the urgency thrumming in her veins drove her onward. Bang! The gun went off, the shot echoing, but it wasn't aimed at them. It struck the ceiling. Debris rained down like confetti. The gunman was losing control. "Get back!" The FBI agent barked, now advancing, taking calculated steps toward the threat. Emily could see fear looming in the gunman's eyes. He wasn't just angry anymore, he was desperate. As confusion clouded his judgment, he began to swing his gun around, searching for a target. In that moment, Emily felt a fierce rush of hope. Maybe they could do this. But as her father tightened his grip around her, the urgency spiraled back into reality. "Emily, I need you to trust me." David strained, pulling her toward the exit. Marcus lunged forward, tackling one of the gunman's crew just as the tension reached a breaking point. Emily's heart raced. Would they make it out alive? She turned to look back at the FBI agent, who was now squarely facing the gunman. Fear flickered within her, a knot tightening in her gut. What if he couldn't hold him off? The room was a kaleidoscope of chaos, neurons firing within her mind, grappling with confusion. Then came the shattering sound of glass as the gunman fired again. Emily ducked instinctively, but it wasn't her on whom he aimed. And in that heartbeat, the world shifted once more. Ears ringing, Emily caught a glimpse of something unusual, an emblem on the stranger's jacket. A symbol she only vaguely recalled. Beneath layers of confusion and adrenaline, something clicked. Secrets she had never known began to rise within her, alive and begging to be uncovered. Who was this man, and what did he know about her? As the smoke began to clear, the looming shadows of danger still stretched before her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the answers she sought were deeper than she imagined. "Wait!" she called out, voice breaking as she fought against inertia. "What is happening?" The diner was a whirlwind of impending turmoil, and every second counted. Emily didn't know if they would escape or if this was the start of something entirely catastrophic. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just about her father any longer. She had a decision to make, and it had to be fast. Would she retreat into safety or charge headfirst into the unknown? As uncertainty wrapped around her, shrouding her in shadows, the hunt for truth loomed ahead, and she was about to step into a world unrecognizable yet enticingly dangerous. What awaited her in that darkness? And what secrets would spill into the light? The air felt electric, charged with fear and anticipation as Emily wrestled with the gravity of her choice. Her father's grip tightened around her arm, pulling her back, but the chaos was pulling her forward. Outside, the night called to her a promise of safety that felt just out of reach. "Emily, come on!" David urged, eyes darting between her and the gunman, who was now shouting frantically, lost in a whirlpool of anger and desperation. The diner, dimly lit and cluttered, felt like a cage. She could see that everything hinged on this moment. The way the FBI agent stood unyielding, tense but resolute, whispered the possibility of hope. What if he really could put an end to this nightmare? Suddenly, Marcus lunged again, knocking the gunman's accomplice off balance, and like a dam bursting, chaos erupted once more. Shouts filled the diner, drowning out logical thoughts, razor-sharp instinct taking over. "Get down!" The voice rang out, and Emily dropped instinctively, pulling her father with her as another shot rang out. The metallic ring echoed in her ears as shattered glass peppered the floor around them, fragments raining down like ominous confetti. Emily's world narrowed down to the pounding of her heart and the muffled cries of terrified patrons. Everything else faded into the background, the clinking of dishes, the whirring of the fan above, the hint of fry grease in the air. Just survival and the swirling chaos around her. Stay close. David urged, crawling toward the nearest exit, pulling Emily with him as people surged against them, each lost in their own fight for escape. In the fray, Emily's fingers brushed against something unnaturally cold, a metallic insignia half hidden beneath the shadow of the rebooting emergency lights. Panic surged when she recognized it, her memories wavering. The same symbol adorned the jacket of the mysterious agent, an ornate dragon intertwined with a rising sun. Her pulse quickened. The truth felt like a cruel tease, just beyond grasp. Emily. Move. David's voice cut through her thoughts, dragging her back to reality. She stumbled forward, fear propelling her as if fueled by the energy of the chaos swirling around them. But her heart was heavy with uncertainty. Who was that man? Was he there to help or complicate things further? Another shot fired, and the gunman's voice shrieked, "You think you can protect them? You don't know what you're up against." A challenge. Her instincts screamed at her to run, yet something deeper whispered the need to stay and face the truth. An errant thought flashed before her, a connection to a life she had never known. Pieces of a puzzle she didn't even know existed began to form in her mind, threatening to consume her. Then, in that moment of chaos and noise, the FBI agent took a step forward, brandishing his weapon. "You're making a mistake. This ends now." He leveled a glare at the gunman, resolve burning like a beacon amidst the tempest. A loud thud pierced the air, and Emily's gaze shifted. A waitress had fallen, her tray crashing to the floor, sending coffee and glass scattering. When she looked back up, the gunman's expression had morphed from confidence to sheer panic. "You think you can take me down?" he shouted, eyes wild, as the diner seemed to grip its breath. "Breathe," the FBI agent commanded. "You're outnumbered. It's over." It was a moment caught in time, adrenaline thickening the air. Everyone seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the flashpoint. All Emily could see were possibilities: the life where they escaped unscathed, and the life caught in the crossfire of violence and betrayal. With a newfound surge of determination, she broke free from her father's grasp for a heartbeat, moving toward the darkness where the agent stood. "Wait. I need answers." The instant she called out, the gunman turned. Their eyes locked in a moment that felt charged. "Answers?" he hissed, a crazed smile creeping across his face. "You wouldn't survive the truth." Then the ground shifted beneath her. The agent swung the gun, and the air crackled with tension. Lights flickered, casting eerie shadows as time seemed to stretch. "Emily!" David shouted again, but she couldn't look away. What truth lay behind the shield of terror? And as Emily stood on the edge of this unraveling situation, ready to leap into an abyss unknown, the question hung in the air: would she uncover the answers, or would the hunt for truth lead her deeper into peril? The moment had come, and if she took a step forward, everything would change forever. Emily's breath hitched in her throat as she realized the gravity of her decision. The gunman's frenzied gaze locked onto hers, eyes wide with a mix of rage and madness that sent icy fingers of dread creeping down her spine. "Emily!" David's voice urged again, trembling with fear. The sound of his distress pulled her back slightly, but then a clarity surged through her. The truth twisted in the air like smoke, promising answers she had longed for her entire life. "Wait!" she shouted at the agent, who was poised, ready to make a move. The tension wrapped around the diner like a thick fog. Patrons crouched low, eyes wild and terrified, their hopes resting on the brink of chaos. The gunman shifted, his gun wavering as he processed her words. For an instant, the fury faded, replaced with a flicker of uncertainty. "You want answers?" he sneered, a twisted smile creeping over his face. "What makes you think you're ready for them?" "Ready or not, I need to know." Emily shot back, heart pounding fiercely as every moment ticked down like a countdown to an explosion. "Then step closer. But be warned, some truths could shatter your world." His voice was low, filled with a sickening anticipation, his eyes glinting like shards of glass. Emily felt driven forward by an invisible force. She took a hesitant step, feeling the weight of the gunman's gaze burning into her skin. The chaos around her faded into a distant murmur as adrenaline surged through her veins, narrowing her focus to just him, that revelation that loomed like a dark shroud. Emily, no. David's cry was desperate, laced with a raw panic. Ignoring her father's pleas felt like betrayal, yet she couldn't turn back. Tell me what you know. She demanded, glancing at the agent. He had shifted slightly, hesitating between impulse and caution. With a wild laughter bordering on insanity, the gunman began to speak. Where do you think your father was the night he met your mother? It wasn't a sweet rendezvous in a coffee shop. No, my dear, it was a dance with darkness. And those who dance often pay the price. Emily's insides twisted. The implications of his words sent shockwaves through her. Just who was her father? The steady rhythm of their lives together suddenly felt like a facade built on lies. Stop. The agent's voice broke through the instant tension. You're losing control. Don't provoke him. Marcus was still on the ground, eyes wide, helpless as if caught between two storms. Patrons trembled, hearts ready to burst out of their chests, desperate for salvation. Control. I have it all, boy. The gunman spat, his voice shaking with mania. And now, I have the daughter too. She'll be my ticket to a reckoning. Emily's chest tightened, and panic bubbled up. What do you mean? The gunman's gun arm lowered slightly, but the terror in his eyes remained fierce. She holds the key to everything. Your father, he thought he could hide it, but the past always comes back to haunt. You're deeper in this than you know. The weight of his words settled on Emily like a heavy cloak, suffocating yet indescribably illuminating. Each revelation chipped away at her reality, slicing through the fabric of her understanding. Enough. The agent moved, his voice sharp. Get down. But it felt almost too late. The gunman's panic had morphed once more into determination. You dare threaten me? I'll expose everything. He caught Emily's gaze, a sudden ferocity igniting within him. Do you really want to know, or do you prefer living the lie? Before Emily could respond, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. Now, you've done it. David shouted, fear radiating from him. The gunman's face twisted into a mask of rage as the reality began to unfold. No. This ends now. In that flicker of chaos, Emily caught a fleeting glimpse of the agent's face, resolve mixed with dread, knowing that this was just the beginning of something much darker. Emily. David's pleas blurred into a cacophony as the room spiraled into turmoil. Would she uncover the truth, or would this moment slip through her fingers just like everything she once believed? With sirens blaring, the choice felt forged in steel. But the danger wasn't merely in escaping, it was in confronting what she had become in the face of such profound darkness. And as the walls closed in, Emily felt the weight of destiny pressing down upon her, urging her to make a choice that could shatter everything or save them all. The diner erupted into a cacophony of panic. Chairs scraped against tiled floors, and sobs mixed with the piercing wail of sirens outside. Shadows inched closer, swirling around Emily like predators on the hunt. The gunman's furious gaze locked on her with a desperation that rattled her core. Get away from her. David yelled, scrambling to inch closer. His fear radiated like an electric current, crackling in the thick air. But Emily stood rooted, her heart pounding in rhythm with the increasing chaos. Tell me. She shouted again, desperately searching his eyes for some flicker of truth. You said I was involved. What do you know? The gunman's expression shifted, a subtle hint of satisfaction lurking beneath his feverish rage. You really don't get it, do you? The night your father met your mother, he paused, relishing the words hanging in the air. It was a deal struck in darkness, a sale that cost far more than just love. Emily's stomach dropped. What kind of deal? Power. He bellowed, his voice rising, drowning out the cries of those around them. Your father was not just an ordinary man. He delved into the underground, trading souls for secrets. You're the byproduct of a legacy wrapped in blood. Gasps filled the diner, and murmurs darted between tables like terrified birds. Emily glanced at David, his face pale with shock. They had always been a family, but now she felt the ground beneath her feet quaking. Was everything she knew a lie? Stop! David shouted again, the frantic urgency in his voice sparking a flicker of resolve in Emily's heart. She had come too far, too many masks had been peeled away for her to retreat now. Enough of this. The agent surged forward, inching between them and the gunman. You think terror will keep her quiet? This isn't a game. But before anyone could react, the gunman raised his weapon higher, face contorting in wild, manic fury. I'll show you who plays games. His finger twitched precariously on the trigger. Time slowed, panic filled the diner. Emily's breath quickened. You're not just going to kill us all. You don't want that. She knew he craved chaos, but maybe just maybe there was still a thread of sanity buried deep inside. Tell me what you want. Want? He laughed, a high-pitched sound that sent chills down her spine. What I want is for you to see what you really are, a part of this darkness. You're not innocent, Emily. You're a queen in a game of shadows. As he spoke, the sirens grew louder, the unmistakable sound of approaching authority. It was both a relief and a threat. Would he crack under pressure, or would he escalate? She needed to break through to him before the situation spiraled beyond control. Then let me in on it. Emily stepped closer, fearless, the energy coursing through her. Show me. I want to understand. Help me find the truth. For a heartbeat, something shifted in the gunman's gaze. She could see the flicker of hesitation, the possibility of a revelation teasing at the edges of his mind. But just as quickly, his rage reared its head again. Fool! You think you can handle the truth? His tone sharpened, eyes narrowing, weapon steadying. You have no idea what you're asking for. Suddenly, a powerful crash erupted at the diner's entrance. The door swung wide, police officers swarming in, guns drawn, voices commanding. Everyone stay down. Emily's heart raced. She glanced back at David, who was watching her, unspoken fear etching lines in his forehead. Would the gunman turn to violence now? Would she lose everything in the attempt to reach him? Get down. The agent urged, pushing Emily to the ground. The gunman's startled expression flared, confusion mingled with the frantic sounds of arriving help. No! He screamed, his grip tightening on the firearm. The threat hung like a dark cloud, ready to unleash its storm. As Emily lay there, a terrible sense of urgency gripped her. This was the moment the truth was within her grasp. Would she break through, or would the chaos consume them all? In the next heartbeat, everything would change forever. The sirens outside roared like angry beasts, filling Emily's ears with the seriousness of the moment. Panic washed over the diner's patrons as they pressed against the floor, shadows flickering with the last light of hope. David's voice echoed in her mind, a fierce reminder of the danger looming above. Emily! He shouted, crawling toward her, urgency propelling him forward. The gunman's wild eyes darted to the door, muscles tense with uncertainty. Please let us go, David implored. This isn't what you want. But the gunman cracked a grin twisted with despair. What I want is for the truth to come out. All of it. You thought you could bury it forever. His gaze landed on Emily, words dripping with venom. But every truth has its price, and you, Emily, are the one destined to pay. You're not ready for the darkness I hold. Emily felt bile rise in her throat. He was trying to rattle her. But deep in her heart, a flame ignited. I am ready. It slipped from her lips, resolute, a challenge rather than a plea. Suddenly, the FBI agent shifted his stance, eyes locked on the gunman with cold precision. You're surrounded. Put the weapon down. His voice echoed through the chaos, cutting through the din as if promising safety. The gunman laughed maniacally, glancing at the agent and then back to Emily. His laughter was wild, echoing the desperate energy in the room. You think they can save you from this? You're as trapped as I am. Reality hung thick with terror. Emily's heart raced, pounding against her ribcage, pulling her adrenaline highs beneath the surface. She locked eyes with her father, and the urgency within him pushed her over the edge. We want to let you take us. We deserve the truth. The gunman hesitated. Only a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, the chaos almost folding in on itself. Do you even know what you're asking for? Emily stepped closer, fueled by a sense of fierce resolve. Show me what I am, she challenged, the power of choice coursing through her veins like fire. Help me find my truth, or you'll have to face the consequences. Before he could respond, the glint of metal caught her eye. Perhaps now was the time. Believe in your power. She shouted, grounding her words in determination. Don't you know you're caught in this spiral too? What if you can break free? Something in the gunman shifted. For a moment, his rage faltered, the gun wavering. Enough games! Shouted the agent, advancing inch by inch, unwavering as the sirens grew louder, consuming the room with urgency. Emily's mind raced as she prepared herself for whatever choice lay ahead. And then everything exploded into pure chaos. The FBI agent lunged toward the gunman as the trapped air broke free, gunfire erupted. Shots echoed like thunder, the world shimmering with peril. The gunman responded, a desperate flick of his finger, but the agent was quicker. Down! He roared, and bodies surged to the ground, seeking solace beneath the din of chaos. A loud crash echoed through the diner as the gunman was knocked off balance, his weapon slipping from his grip. Emily saw her chance. She grabbed her father's hand, adrenaline surging as they crawled toward escape. Come on! She yelled, pulling him with her as broken glass crunched underfoot. Emily, Marcus! David shouted, scanning for their friend amidst the panic, but there was no time to waste. They had to move. As they darted for the entrance, Marcus appeared from behind a corner, adrenaline fueling his determination. I'm here! He shouted, eyes filled with urgency. Let us go! Just then, amidst the swirl of people and chaos, the gunman gasped, fury revealing itself. This isn't over. He screamed, voice razor-sharp, but the lights flickered and shadows danced like ghosts through the diner's doors as the FBI moved with intent. Protect the girl! The agent shouted to his colleagues, diverting attention towards them as they moved out. They burst through the entrance, the cold night air slapping against their faces, a stark contrast to the chaos they'd left behind. Outside, the world felt alive, sirens screaming, lights flashing like stars blinking out of sync. David stumbled to his feet, grabbing Emily tightly. We did it! We got out! But as relief washed over them, the weight of truth hung heavily in the air. Emily, David said, looking deep into her eyes, there's so much you still don't understand. But whatever happens, we'll figure it out together. In that moment, amidst the buzzing chaos, the air shimmered with fragile hope. The shadows didn't fade, they lingered, but only now did Emily feel the power igniting within her. One more trap wouldn't hold her. She was ready to confront the truth, the legacy that loomed above. Her heart surged with resolve despite the darkness. The diner had been only the beginning, and what lay ahead promised both danger and light. As the stars blinked above and chaos kept swirling, Emily whispered, I'm ready for whatever comes next. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you just read. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. Your support is everything. Show the love.